Yeah. So pretty much, I think one of the most powerful things of the brigade was going into a country that has been so vilified, as Nino here was talking about, and realizing all the accomplishments that have occurred because of the revolution. And particularly as socialists in the Young Communist League, often when we're doing activism here, we hear that socialism is a dead cause, that it's something of the past, that capitalism has won, that we've reached the end of history. But going to Cuba and seeing socialism in action has, really given us the power to understand that what this small country, under the threat of imperialism for many decades, have done is also possible over here. At the Meanwhile, we weren't going there as like this humanitarian mission to go save Cuban people or just simply admire what they have achieved, but give them solidarity for fighting decades-long imperialist threats against them, and also really show our support and learn from them and take back home some of what we've seen from the revolution, particularly because Cuba has often been vilified as well for not being a democratic nation. But going there and seeing the country in action has really taught us a lot.
Yeah, it's a really wonderful thing for all age groups. We had people quite young, younger than ourselves, who were in our 20s, but also I think our oldest member was in her 80s or 90s.
Yeah, she was a Communist Party member.
Yeah, and just participating the whole time alongside everything, and just a lot of wonderful opportunities to see the way that the system works, and first and foremost to learn, and as Rosine said, express solidarity.
Yeah, so do you want to turn to the first? So this is the camp that we stayed at. Part of the brigade was staying at an international solidarity camp where groups from all over the world stayed at. And here we did a variety of different activities. If you want to turn to the next slide. This is some revolutionary art that they've done in support of the revolution. This is some more art as well. You can see this is a mural that Chile actually made.
And the Huron was the English-speaking camp, I believe.
Yeah. So we also had a lot of cultural activities. Do you want to talk about anything that you found particularly interesting in cultural activities?
The cultural activities, well, there's a lot of music and socializing, and honestly so much going on that you oftentimes choose to compromise your sleep just to absorb all the wonderful conversation and beautiful experiences of people. But I'm excited to get to the May Day, which is my favorite.
Yeah, so next. This is, we also had the opportunity to work at this farm and learn about what the working conditions of the farmers were, and we can really contrast the situation between capitalist countries and also with like temporary migrant workers program happening that bringing Mexican workers here. You can see the very dire conditions of workers working in this country versus what the conditions in Cuba were, and that's part of the volunteer work. It wasn't to help them build something, but to learn about what the working conditions of the workers in Cuba is.
That's right, and everybody did different types of work. Some people did cleaning, some people, depending on your ability, if you could work the machete, would be cutting plantain, and some of us would just be weeding. It was, yeah.
And this is just photos of all of us relaxing, having political conversations, or playing chess with like Cubans, and dancing, or exercising, or what have you. So next. There's also other work at cooperative farms. So like Nino was talking about, their system of food and agriculture is very different than the capital system here. Rather than food becoming a commodity for profit, it's becoming a source of livelihood for a community, and we can see that through their cooperative systems. These are some more photos of people working on the brigade. This is Cuba's urban garden. This was the first year that I went. We had the opportunity to work in different urban gardens, and the purpose of the urban gardens in Havana they were at every district pretty much in Havana, and the purpose was to feed the communities there. We had the opportunity to work there. I don't think it was the year that we went, but it was another year. So YCL Canada had the opportunity to have conversations with the YCL in Cuba and talk about how we're going to build solidarity networks and what both of our visions of socialism is, and we explained a little bit about our difficulties here and also our struggle towards socialism, and they taught us about how they're reaching out to the youth, and one of the questions was about how like the youth are interacting with the revolution, and talking to the YCL, it showed us that there are a lot of youth alive and fighting for the revolution and wanting to see Cuba remain in their process towards socialism. Oops, sorry, missed one. So Cuba's medical system, do you have any insight about that?
Cuba's medical. I honestly think that you and Brent's experience with the medical system personally would be a good little anecdote for
Yeah.
this.
I mean, I got sick one time with strep throat the first year that I was there, and I've never experienced so much. Like, just for strep throat and having a fever, they patted me down for 45 minutes. We also had the opportunity to talk to people from all over the world that go to the Latin American Medical School, and they don't have to pay any tuition or anything. They just go, study there, and their one obligation is to go back and take what they've learned to their home countries, including there's a lot of people from Palestine, a lot of people from El Salvador, Brazil, just Colombia, all over really. And it was amazing talking to them and experiencing like what their education system was towards medicine, as well as having the opportunity to like visit hospitals and see their pharmaceutical
Maternity hospitals.
yeah, maternity hospitals as well. They had a hospital for everything, like mental health for women. It was like a hospital in every corner really.
What's that top right picture?
This one?
Yeah.
That's some of the forms that when we went to Cuba. It was the first year that I went. It was some of the ways that they were showing us how they produce some of their medicine or herbal medicines and stuff that's traditional to them. And
Like a street vendor pharmacy?
no, it was like they kept it in, it was like a special pharmacy, more of like cultural and herbal type of medicines, but it wasn't like a street vendor type thing. It was in a building. No, but they're also finding like vaccinations and cures for lung cancer as well as HIV. Education in Cuba, there's a primary school pretty much in every block that you go, as well as hospitals. We had the opportunity the first year I went to visit Che Guevara High School, and here's some photos of us, the high school students, and as you can see they have a lot of supplies for their students in comparison to what would not happen if the revolution did not succeed. You can compare it to a lot of other countries in the global south where resources are very scarce, and they, with the little wealth and the blockade and the economic sanctions that have been forced against them, managed to provide educational supplies to the students there as well. This is, in the first year I went, we visited the Island of Youth, which is really a special place for Cuba because it's also the place that Raul and Fidel were held in prison while they were fighting for the revolution. And what happens there is because it's an island, they are really close to, they always have hurricane seasons, and what happened is that a lot of houses got destructed in 2008 after a huge hurricane, and immediately the government built a lot of co-op houses and communal houses for the people of that community, and it was massive, it was unbelievable, particularly coming from like North America where we hear about Hurricane Katrina, we hear about the billions and millions of dollars that the government spent on war and the government has for the very wealthy of America. Meanwhile, Cuba, again, with a country that has very little material resources because of the sanctions against them, managed to build massive amounts of co-op housing across the Island of Youth. We visited a few of them, and this provided homes and a community for people to live in that included hospitals and medical care and preschools and work opportunities for people that became unemployed. So the next photos are just people in the community. A lot of them are relaxing, a lot of them with their children, people from all different backgrounds. It was incredible to see. It was like really communal living. Next. This is also some more, they had schools in there too, so you had school children as well. So next. The Federation of Cuban Women we visited, and do you want to add something about that?
I think I actually missed this one.
Yeah, but the Federation of Cuban Women, like a lot of people think that in socialist countries, women's issues are put to the sideline, or women's struggles, should I say, are put to the sideline or secondary, but in Cuba, they created a whole grassroots organization that works in support of women and women's struggle, and they deal with a variety of issues such as women's voices being heard in the political process, women's voices being heard in regards to the increase of sex work that's happened after tourism, and so a lot, like, you can tell like Cuba's been vilified for being somewhat of a dictatorship supposedly, but these organizations are part of the democratic process in which they work with the government to work on different struggles different segments of society has, and in this case being women.
And an extension, of course, LGBTQ rights.
Absolutely. This is also, we learned about the Afro-Cuban culture there, because there's a huge Afro-Cuban, as Nino was saying, unfortunately there was slavery in Cuba in the beginning, but they kept their Afro-Cuban culture alive, and we got the chance to talk to them and learn about that and see their dances. We also visited a lot of different factories and talked to different unions. Every worker in Cuba is unionized, and they have revolutionary unions, and if they feel that they need to fight for more rights, the government immediately gives voice and power to them. It's not like a lot of the unions here that are sidelined and have to really, really struggle to get their voices heard. It's just another way that the democratic process works in Cuba, by giving much more power and voice to revolutionary unions. The Cuba Defense of Revolution, we showed you a quick clip of that in the beginning, where someone was speaking about why they have these Cuban defensive revolutions in every district and every city within Cuba, and it's pretty much to, like Nina was saying, uphold the revolution. We had a lot of block parties. Do you remember the block parties? So a lot of people just came and celebrated for that. This is the political prison that I was talking about, that Fidel and Raul were kept in. It's now just, to remember all the torture and what happened before the revolutions, to silence the voice of radicals. So May Day, do you want to talk about May Day at all?
Yeah, May Day was probably my favorite day and a lot of other people's favorite days, because we got to participate in such a powerful annual demonstration, and we were given the choice of either marching along with the people or kind of watching from, where were we?
We're just watching from like a
the
stand.
sideline stands.
And they're May Brigade, so you had countries from all over the world come, from all segments and all different groups.
And we had decided to watch that year so that we could see all the diverse groups involved, and as Rosine has already mentioned, all the diverse groups that even show up to the May Day Brigade. And a personal anecdote from myself was that I was really touched to see some Turkish organizers involved in Kurdish solidarity groups, and also people from Iraqi Kurdistan and Syrian Kurdistan who had come to demonstrate for Kurdish rights there, and it's just such a wonderful way to connect with comrades all over the globe and witness such a powerful march.
Yeah, so these are some more photos of it. Next. Yeah, these are just up close. You can see of different sides, like student organizations, or very active unions, like healthcare workers. This is one about ending the blockade. This is another one about sustainability.
So it rained?
That wasn't our year. But these are some. Maduro was there last year, as well as the Cuban 5, which were all free. And that's Raul. And this is what Roja was talking about. People from Kurdistan. There is a large population of Palestinians in Cuba that have a very strong Palestinian solidarity work there, like GOOPS, which is like the student union, often goes to Cuba. They also have just a variety of different Palestinian groups. So that was very huge. Like Cuba's work towards Palestine is very big. Also, they had like the Mexican Communist Party was there, the Russian Communist Party was there. So it was amazing. This is what Roja was talking about. Like, people think that the LGBTQ community is silenced and treated very poorly in Cuba, but it's quite contrary. Like, although they did have a poor history with that, changes have been made and their struggles have been realized, and they do have a voice in the democratic and political process in Cuba as well. This is just the YCL maybe from last year.
So those are members from all over Canada?
They're mainly from out east, because we didn't have any delegates from last year from our community. So this is from Hamilton, Guelph, or Toronto. Yeah. We also had the opportunity to go to different Free the Cuban 5 conferences. One year I went to a conference where it was like led by different YCL groups from all over Latin America in support of like working towards how you're going to free the Cuban 5, and you had the opportunity to hear from their families. And then essentially when we were there that first year, one of the Cuban 5s actually got free the time that we were there, so it was like a huge deal. And essentially all of them were free. So that's a photo from those events.
And that's Gerardo in the center there?
Mm-hmm. This is just some photos of Havana, because it's probably one of the most interesting parts of the trip, going to see it. I just showed some interesting parts of, like, not the touristy aspects, but just like the mundane and beautiful conditions of everyday Havana. And so yeah, if you're interested in becoming a Brigadista, here's the website. We'll post it again on the Facebook if you're interested. Yeah, so next photo. We also just wanted to congratulate Nazir, who's over here, and Nino for their immense solidarity work, which they then got awards from the Cuban government for years and years of working and building Canada-Cuba relations, which, because of them and because of their creation with the Canadian Friendship with Cuba, with the Canadian Network on Cuba, and helping grow the Brigade every year, we managed to have a lot of young people every year come and go to the Brigade and learn more about Cuba. So it was important for us to give thanks to both of them for their hard work and for enlightening us a lot about what Cuba Solidarity is and what the Cuban Revolution is. And this is just our recent campaign that we're doing, because with Cuba, when we talked to them, when we talked to the YCL, one of their biggest focuses was to end the blockade against them. And so we're starting distributing different materials, some of which we have over here, to spread the word, tell your friends a little bit about Cuba, a little bit of what you learned today, tell them that this unjust blockade is costing the people of Cuba, first and foremost, millions and billions of dollars that can be put into growing Cuba as a whole and sustaining the revolution that they fought for many decades. So, thank you.